flying school bus and aging backwards. It was just the beginning of August on the island of New Florida, and the trains on the tracks were being really useful with passengers' freight and gender service. Amtrak was doing a good job with passengers going from city to city year-round because it was a long-distance passenger railroad in the United States, and it was really special for everyone. Further up into the future, GEP-40 locomotives will be replaced by SC-44 Charger engines with new cars like Amtrak Aero train sets, which can be really useful, just like Thomas and his friends, which makes trains really useful indeed, while the crossing gates flash and the trains go by. Women trains do good jobs with their freight because they're authorized to make new genders for other planets. And just because women locomotives have a lot to do doesn't mean they shouldn't fail with anything. The Northeast Corridor is an electrified line in the United States going from Boston to Washington, D.C., which Amtrak does a good job with electrical locomotives. One day, the MBTA Framingham-Worcester line was heading to South Station with the Lakeshore Limited passing it on the way to Chicago. Mr. Cakester had a very important job for Danielle, Galen, Adrian, Kathy, Mina, and Zuri. He had an important job. Sir Topham Hatt is off island, said Mr. Cakester, so you six must take a mega train to Sodor. It's a daytime train. That sounds like a good plan, sir, said the 6 engines, and they steamed out of the yard. I enjoy being really useful, Danielle said, because an engineer wants to age backwards on our train. And they steamed off with the mega train while being really useful indeed. I've never thought about aging backwards, Danielle said, because it's like Benjamin Button. The freight cars rolled along behind. Just then, the MBTA Franklin line was coming through the mountains. It was being really useful. I think we're gonna see a bus flying through the sky on its way to the moon, said Galen. No, we won't, said Danielle. That's just crazy make-believe. But they spoke too soon. Look up there, shouted Adrian. It's a flying school bus. Buses don't fly, said Kathy. That's crazy. They stop at all railroad crossings, Mina said. That's right, Danielle said. Buses need to stop at all railroad crossings. And in the lounge car, some passengers were having their lunch. But then a helicopter was carrying a school bus through the air! Did you ever think of the magic school bus? Asked Danielle. Because the bus driver is called Miss Frizzle, and she has lots of kids! The engines were laughing about the Benjamin Button Thomas crossover, but ahead there was a work train because it had nuclear stuff in it. And Lindsay and Shelley were working on the track with nuclear weapons. But then the workman turned on the alarm. I wouldn't age backwards if engines were diapers, Danielle said, because that's crazy. Danielle's driver slammed on the emergency brakes. But it was too late! Fire raged and the train started to flip, and flames went into the air, and the freight cars derailed, and it was like an inferno, and the freight cars bounced into each other, and at last, everything came to a halt. When Becky saw the accident, she was surprised. Luckily, no one was hurt, but there were lots of dangerous cargo everywhere, and the nuclear bomb had triggered the area and destroyed the power. Danielle had flipped onto her side, and Shelley was worried. I'm sure those engines will be fine, she said. Of course they will, said Ida. After the wreck was cleaned up, the line was reopened and the trains on the tracks were being really useful once more. So, just so the engines think, it would be best to age forwards, because we all like to get older and older and not wear diapers. And even though this crash was pretty awful, we can only hope that there's no one aging backwards in the future, except Benjamin Button, which is silly make-believe.